Hello there. Good evening and welcome to Sunday Politics live on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. This is where you come to for the topical conversations shaping government polity and policy, as well as developing issues from within and outside Nigeria. On the program, we give you different perspectives that will add value to your understanding of some of the most topical issues, plus give you an opportunity to be a part of the conversation. Speaking of the conversation, Nigeria as a country has continued to unravel given the current economic climate in the country, one that has been occasioned since the inception of the Tinubu administration back in May of last year. The removal of subsidy has begun the evolution of some of the myriads of challenges that we've seen bedevil Nigeria and indeed Nigerians as the Tinubu administration continues to troubleshoot the problems with a view to addressing some of the structural issues that has undermined the growth and development of the Nigerian economy. But this past few weeks, we've seen a lot of the issues that have come to light to signpost what has been a disenchantment as well as a dissatisfaction across Nigeria, with many taking to the street to voice out their anger and frustration about the process and procedure with which government at federal and state level are handling the current situation in the country. Over the past few days, lootings have become a new normal now, something that is reminiscent of a development that happened a couple of years ago during the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, for the Tinubu administration, more time is needed for Nigerians to reap the rewards and the benefits of all of the reforms that it is currently undertaking. But for Nigerians, they're running low on patience, and they really are eager to see the results bear fruit at this moment in time. So what is the best way to understand why things are happening the way they are happening? And is there a chance that there's an alignment between what the government is doing and what the people expect to see in the weeks and months to come? Joining me on the program tonight is a public affairs commentator. Gadu is joining us to add value to the conversation on Sunday Politics. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi, for having me here.
Right. Where do we start from? Let's recap some of the events from this past week. We saw the NLC go ahead with its planned protest. We saw how that protest culminated, and it was partially a big one because it was pretty much everywhere across the 36 states of the Federation, and then they decided to cut short the two-day protest by just sticking to one. Later, we understood that they've been threatened, for their decision to go ahead with the protest. But in the aftermath of that, we heard from the president, who said, listen, let me govern. If you want to influence the political situation in the country, wait for 2027. Give me your thoughts on that particular development and what it says about where we are right now as a country.
Well, first of all, it was unfortunate of Mr. President to make that statement, trying to sort of, belittle what the NLC is trying to do. The NLC is an umbrella body of workers in the country, and they're also connected to what's happening in the country in terms of not just controlling the labor movements, but also a larger part of the population of the country. And of course, the NLC is mandated by that to come out and, let the government know, interrogate the government on its policies regarding the people of Nigeria. It's a legitimate body. It's a body that has the right to do what it's doing. And of course, they are doing that because of the policies of Mr. President. And Mr. President ought to respond in a manner that shows his concern. Dialogue, you can't ask for dialogue and at the same time denigrate the labor movement for making its feelings known about what's happening in the country. It's legitimate. They're not out there for fun.
Do you think his point about how the administration that has a 4-year tenure is at its infancy in just 8 months now, that, several protests within 8 months shows a deliberate attempt to undermine the political goodwill that usually comes with a new administration at this moment in time? Don't you think that there's a point there?
No, I don't think he has any point. because he needs to get the goodwill of the people. You can't initiate policies that are hurting the people, and at the same time trying to, blame the people for what they're doing. I mean, the people didn't increase the petrol price, they didn't float the naira, and they didn't ask him to do that because he did that, as he said, out of his own thinking. He never consulted anybody. He took it on himself. In fact, he did it surreptitiously, without consultations and without making sure that the props are there to ensure that, a plan was on ground to ensure that, it cushions the effect of these very harsh policies. So to turn around and talk about 2027 shows that there is a disconnect with the president, with the people of Nigeria, because who is talking about 2027 now? Nobody. It's the people. They are talking about the here and now, which is how much is a bag of rice, which is how much is transportation cost, which is, these are the things. Nobody's talking about 2027 unless that shows to you his concentration. His concentration is on 2027, which is far away, about 3 years from now. But the people are suffering what his policies. He should address those policies and wait until 2027.
Okay, one other particular development which we also have to talk about is something that is reminiscent of what happened during the NSAS period. We remember some 3 years ago when Nigerians decided to voice out their anger against police brutality, and then that metamorphosed into public lootings. And we do have some images just to show from today earlier.
The warehouse.
A NEMA warehouse was looted here in Abuja. I mean, the police would say hoodlums, but these are everyday Nigerians, residents who are also taking advantage of this unfortunate development to cart away food items. And obviously, we've seen a more disturbing one in Kaduna where, a delivery truck was pretty much looted on the highway. Do you think we're at a point now where people can easily moralize criminal activities like this because of the hardship in the land?
Well, I want to state clearly that I'm not in support of acts of lawlessness in pursuit of the rights of people. People have to channel their grievances in the right possible way by making their feelings known in ways that would get the support of the government, get the government to act and solve these problems. But then, when you make lawful situations unlawful, and in this case, people, the pangs of hunger doesn't respect rational thinking, because the next thing you're thinking about is how to get the next meal, and where it is possible to get that meal, and how it is possible to get that meal. People are likely to not listen to the reason of people like me. They're likely to say, look, this guy looks, he has his own, he gets what he can get his food, but I have seen something there. I don't care what happens to me in the process. All I want to do is to get in there, collect as much as I can get. If I get out of the place alive, fine. If I don't, well, at least I've died trying.
What about the commitment of the government to release some of these grains? I mean, these warehouses are strategically located, especially with the National Emergency Management Agency. It is supposed to be used for interventions in case of emergencies and things like that. There are a lot of people who are saying, why are we anticipating an emergency in the future when we are already dealing with one right now? Do you think that that is indicative of the urgency that is required for the government to treat the current situation right now, where people are struggling to put food on the table, and they get the sense that the government doesn't understand how urgent this problem is?
Yeah, I like to share that conviction, because most times we hear that when government says we are going to take this policy or to make this policy, maybe for instance releasing grains or foodstuff or items or palliative items, it takes between the time that pronouncement is made to the time it gets to the people, it gets lost. It gets lost, and people, invariably it doesn't get to the people. Now we've had that so and so number of grains or number of bags of grains have been released to the public, but where is it? And in many cases, you find that these things end up with people who do not even need it, who speculate on it. So people get tired. People this is not the time for people to listen to reason. It's a time for people to see things happening. And that's the difference between they're living and they're not living. And we're getting to the point where we are invariably getting to a summer of discontent in this country. And the people who are in the authority should realize that this thing is growing to a point where it could become unmanageable. And that's why it's better to actually match words with action. If there's going to be, palliatives or whatever to be able to cushion the effect, it must be done. But it must also be concretized. Otherwise, people are going to resort to self-help, as you are seeing now happening, and it's growing. About several months ago, it wasn't, things like this weren't happening. But we are going to the point where it will be a free-for-all. Every man for himself and God for us all.
You think that that is the worst-case scenario if things continue unabated?
Of course. As I said, we are heading towards a summer of discontent. Because as the things go, as we leave things to go along in this manner, without taking concrete steps, that is from the government authorities now, taking concrete steps to ensure that these things are minimized, or at least cushions are done to be able to stave off some of these developments, then we're going to have people resorting to self-help. Now, these people, what they were doing at this in Kaduna and other places, they're getting tired of promises, they're getting tired of, pledges. And they said, look, I can't wait. I have a child who has to eat. I have to eat too. I have to get the strength. And what I have in my pocket can't get me anywhere. So if I can get across where I can get distance, I'll go ahead and get myself. Whatever happens to me in the process, well, the worst has happened to me anyway.
Is this a security threat, you think? Because there are warehouses like this across the 6 geopolitical zones in this country. And just like what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, this could turn into a national looting spree where people are going to say, listen, that's what everybody else is doing elsewhere. So how about we also save ourselves and go to this warehouse and make away with whatever it is? Do you think that there is a real concern that this could snowball into a national crisis?
It's already, the beginnings of it is already here, evident. You can see it. Ordinarily, people wouldn't go on this action. I mean, in ordinary circumstances where at least they are sure of their meals, where they are sure that they can get what they're supposed to get for basic survival. But if they don't get distance and rumors get out to them that, distance are available, of course, reason doesn't come into the matter. It's what to do. The reason that gets into the matter is how to get the next meal. And we shouldn't get to that point. The government shouldn't allow that to get to that point, because then even the government would lose its ability to call people to order. And that's why it must be open with people. Statements by Mr. President regarding the right of the NLC to come out and demonstrate and to show their anger and to proffer solutions doesn't help. It doesn't help the country. It doesn't help the government itself.
What about the conversation that we need to be patient in this moment in time, that the economy is such a bad shape, that there are no quick fixes to this problem? We're going to have to be honest about it. And for some, that is what the Tinubu administration is trying to do, to be honest about the decay in government, about the decay in the economy, and how long it is going to take for us to turn things around. That is easier said than done when these promises were made on the campaign train. That right now we have to do the hard work, and Nigerians have to be patient to weather the storm before things stabilize. Knowing what you know about the economy, about some of the indices and the indicators, isn't there some truth in that analysis?
What we need to do, what we need to ask Mr. President is, you told us during the campaign that you're going to hit the ground running. You told us that you know about what's happening in the country, you know about the extent to which the damage has been done to the economy. You saw it firsthand when Emefiele was doing what was. In fact, we rolled into Tinubu's administration right on the back of the Emefiele disaster. So it was already there. And Mr. President has been a part of the government. He was a key member of the government, of the policies and plans of the government, as a leader of a party that was in power. And that was.
But he did also express some of his disagreements with some of the policy directions that the Buhari administration took.
But the bottom line is that he knew what he was taking on. So it was, and he also told and assured Nigerians that he wasn't going to make excuses. In fact, his wife even said it. The first lady said, look, don't pity us. We are going to fix the country.
I think he said it also at the
he said it also.
Dinner.
So for now to come and be making excuses about how do we now believe him? And in any case, it didn't take him long to sit down. To remove the subsidies and and collapse the naira. So why is it taking him long to now, cushion the effects of these policies? He should have thought about it all along.
Isn't excuses a bit of a harsh, term because, regardless of who is in charge, we probably would still be in this particular situation we're in right now, because the economy was heading downwards, and this particular trajectory has been the foundation for the past 8, 10, 12 years and counting. This was always going to happen, wasn't it?
No, but look, let's go to the brass tacks. Let's go to the root of it now. We have the engagement with the IMF for the past 39 years in this country, since 1985, when President Babangida came to power. In fact, one of the reasons why President Babangida came to power was to implement the IMF prescriptions, because by 1985 the economy had gone flat, and during the time of Shagari, the IMF had first knocked on the door of Nigerians, of the Nigerian government, said, look, you are having problems with your balance of payments, and we need to be able to sit down and resolve these issues. Well, because it was a political circumstances era, they were afraid to take the steps. And of course, Buhari came to power as a military man. He rejected it and instead opted for what they call counter trade at that time. And of course, it wasn't working. And then Babangida took over and then started the process of engaging with the IMF. Up to this moment, 39 years old, what has been the trajectory of the IMF in Nigeria? What have we done with the IMF engagement? Has it resulted in growth for the economy, development in the economy? My answer is no. And at this point in time, Tinubu said it was the best fix. President Tinubu said it was the best fix for the economy. Now we are seeing the economy going south, south, south. And at the same time, there was no solution to actually, accompany the economic reforms that he was unleashing on Nigerians. Now we can see that at every turn, the economy is going down. All the solutions that he's tried to apply has failed or is failing. So we really are up a creek without a paddle. And then
I think in 8 months you can assess completely and conclude that the economic reforms have failed.
But in the first instance, we need to even engage or interrogate even the engagement with the IMF, because
you're surely not putting the blame of the slowdown or downturn of the economy on IMF. Is that what you're saying?
Well, let me give you the full picture now, okay? Because the policies that this government is implementing as its economic reforms are the prescriptions of the IMF.
Or is it possible to also say that it is just in alignment with what IMF would want us to do?
That's the difference between 6 and half a dozen. But the thing I want to let you know is that the IMF is like the witch cried tonight and the child died tomorrow. We have been engaging with them. And of course, we hear government saying we need to engage with the IMF to be able to solve our balance of payments situations. Okay? So the question to ask is the IMF itself legitimate to even prescribe to Nigeria what to do with its economy? It's not a matter of sentiment now. It's a matter of facts, real facts in international and domestic law. The IMF itself, we need to interrogate its legitimacy and legality in terms of trying to prescribe economic prescriptions to Nigeria and other countries around the world. Because by 1971, the legitimacy of the IMF itself has been put to test. Because at the formation of IMF and World Bank in 1945, there were sets of guarantees of which the IMF was going to operate on. By 1971, those guarantees had been abrogated. So dealing with IMF from that point itself was questionable under international law and domestic law. And I'll give you the reasons. In 1971, America, which pledged when the IMF was being formed to guarantee the operations of IMF, to guarantee the IMF loans to other countries, decided that it was not going to unilaterally pull the plug from everywhere. It pulled the plug. It decided it was going to renege on the gold and the golds that it was using to support the IMF, the dollar. So he did that without consultations with other members of the IMF and other people who were dealing with the IMF. Now, in international law, that itself is questionable. And following by that, the domestic law too can say, look, since this organization that is guaranteed by this precepts has now been removed, we need to review it, ratify it, and see whether we can continue or not. So for you to continue to implement IMF prescriptions in Nigeria, it's a questionable thing. It's actionable, in fact, not questionable because it was not ratified by a Council of Ministers or the National Assembly. The decisions that the Tinubu administration is implementing now has effects on the national security, on politics, on economics, and on the social conditions. That is why you are seeing people out there. It's a consequence of those prescriptions. It's a consequence, and it has its consequence on the economy, on the politics of the country. So it's something that we have to sit down as a country to take a look at, review again from the time that we've been engaging with IMF to this point, whether this is the right thing to do or not, whether we can go another way or not. These are the things we need to look at.
You're saying the entire renewed hope agenda is hinged on IMF policy directions, and there's nothing organic about it. Is that what you're alluding to?
Well, that's what it is, because what are the policies of this government in its inception? In fact, from the very spot that Tinubu picked up the microphone to address the nation on his first inaugural address to the country, he said it. In fact, it was not even his speech. It was something he came out with. Now, such a declaration actually requires even sitting down with stakeholders, because at the end of the day, it is multidimensional. It has a multidimensional effect.
Whether he announced it on inauguration day or not, the Buhari administration had already stopped the budgetary allocation for subsidies by the month of July. So it was only a matter of time that Tinubu would have to deal with this particular reality. And for many years, there's been a lot of advocacy to stop subsidy in this country because of the huge amounts of money that we spend on subsidies year in, year out. So it was safe to say that Tinubu, took the red pill that was needed.
No, he didn't take the red pill. It was opportunistic. He didn't take the red pill because the issue was not the subsidy, but the people abusing the subsidy. There is no country, let me repeat it again. They talk about subsidy being anathema. It's all talk, it's balderdash. Subsidy exists everywhere in this country, in this world. In every country in the world, subsidy exists. But the difference is that the people who implement those subsidies in those countries make sure that there is no abuse of the subsidy. So anybody who tries to abuse the subsidy, because the subsidy is meant to go through for everybody. So if you try to abuse the subsidy, you get punished. But in this country, we know who the subsidy abusers are. We know what they're doing. We know them, but don't go after them. Instead, we say, we are going to remove the subsidy, and then let the people out there suffer for it. And that's what is happening now. So if the government says the subsidy is abused, yes, the subsidy should be removed. Yes, you remove it, but let's make sure that the abusers of the subsidy are found out and punished. Then we know that, yes, this is what they're doing and this is how they're sabotaging the government of the country. And by the way, even with the so-called removal of subsidy, which the government said, the IMF still states that there are subsidies going on. And of course, you can even look at it. You can even examine it. If you say you have totally removed subsidy on petrol, but at the same time you are not producing any petroleum products, that means you have to appoint people to import the petrol into the country. You have to pay them insurance costs, you have to pay them freight costs, you have to pay them landing costs, you have to pay them distribution costs at 640 or 680 naira. Come on.
Yeah, we understand that the numbers don't add up and that subsidy is in some way still in effect within the system, because if not, at the current landing cost, Nigerians will be paying just a little
and
over
distribution
1,000,
cost, by the way.
Yeah, a little over 1,000 naira per litre, but that's not what we're paying right now. But looking at your analysis, surely there's a glass half full analysis somewhere in there, and I would love to hear an optimistic analysis of some of the low-hanging fruits, or the silver lining, as the case may be.
The silver lining is to go back to the drawing board. We had instances in this country where subsidies were removed and things were done. And I'm going to give you an example, concrete example. When Babangida was introducing the IMF reforms, he took it upon himself to set up what is called the Department of Food, Road, Rural Infrastructure. That is to plow the money into the roads, into the rural economy, where rural businessmen will provide, supply, will be part of the contracting system for the roads. And he borrowed this idea from what happened in America, what they call the New Deal. New Deal under President Roosevelt, where parts of America that suffered drastically from the 1930s depression, money was plowed to those areas. States like Tennessee, states like Wisconsin, all the states, there were public programs that revived the rural economy, put money in the hands of people who are supplying things, building infrastructure, building, agriculture and all those, revived the rural economy. And luckily for America, the World War came and met them at that point. So it now, they now moved along and then implemented this. Babangida did the same, did something similar with the Department of Food, Road and Rural Infrastructure. And then, of course, the drastic effect of the IMF reforms that he introduced was felt mildly, but at the same time, people were laughing. Then during the time of, Sani Abacha, when there was a marginal increase in petroleum prices, he set up what is called the PTF, Petroleum Trust Fund. All of that money was plowed into the PTF, where, infrastructure in universities, in the roads, in the rural areas, hospitals, pharmacy, medications and all that were provided. We saw these things happening. We saw it clear. And again, in 2012, when President Goodluck Jonathan also marginally increased the price of petroleum, and there was a lot of uproar, he reversed it. In fact, Erdogan too reversed the process, because at the end of the day, the people you cannot ask the people to make sacrifices when you don't have anything for them to hang on to, when they have to go and be breaking into warehouses so that they can get food. But if you have something to cushion it and say, look, hey, this is what we have to do, and this is what we have to do to cushion it, then. But in this case, nothing is done. You came and you increased the price of petroleum, blaming it on subsidy, and you knew, or you did not try to identify the subsidy abusers. Then you are loading it on the people to suffer the effect of the corruption of the subsidy, people who and then you are saying for them they should hang on and be patient. The thing to do now is, as people are crying, as people are hungry, and as people are demonstrating and tell you, hey, we need to do that, you have to go back, because at the end of the day, you are ruling for the people, not against the people. Sit down and review the issues. Where have we gone wrong? Where do we think we can tweak it so that we can at least provide something for the people? Now, this thing you talk about palliatives. Palliatives are not what is needed. Palliatives are temporary. Palliatives are given when you have a disaster like an earthquake, flood and all that. You need to have a concrete economic policy to be able to cope long term on the effect, because the effect of this are long term. So you need to have something to cushion it, to meet it. We don't see anything like that. Even the policies that the government is doing, the MPC and all that, it's not having it. In fact, it is getting worse.
Yeah. And then what about the subnationals? Because they don't get all the attention that they're supposed to get in terms of accountability, because surely the president is there biting the bullet, taking the unpopular decisions that need to be taken to course correct the trajectory of our economy, but the subnationals have gone silent. I mean, some of them are quite have been, remarkable in trying to address some of this problem, but a good percentage of them have gone under the shadows, and it's almost as if it is only the federal government that can solve this myriad of challenges that also cascade to the subnational level.
Well, the buck stops on his table. He gives the money to them. Nobody says he should. Nobody puts the gun to his head. He gives the money to them, and
he constitutionally cannot not give them the money.
Exactly. So he must monitor it. That nothing says that as he gives them the money, he must not monitor it. He must monitor it, and he must find a way of making sure that the money he gives to them gets to where it's supposed to go. And if it doesn't go, it is up to him to say to the people of Nigeria, look at what I have done to your state government. Look at what I've given them for this. So when you've come from state A and you say I don't have this, talk to your state government, to your state governor, or to your local government. But whoever gives out money, that amount of money, and not monitor it. So he must take the blame, because at the end of the day, the buck stops on his table. And rather than say, so it's a convenient way to actually run away from the problem by saying because if you don't give them the money, this wouldn't have happened under Obasanjo. He would have said, look, I've given you this money, how much is it that you are doing? And if he doesn't, he exposes you. But you sit down, you give out the money to this state, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and you tell Nigerians, oh, is that what we want to hear?
Okay, I believe there's a lot more from that to chew on, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment to further double down on the conversation, looking at the state of affairs in the country. And also, when we come back from this break, our phone lines will be open, so you can add your voice to the conversation. If you have an opinion, a thought, or recommendation, or a question that you want to ask, feel free to do so. More on that after the break.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not about you.
I'm coming. Let me finish.
Because there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its high horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Welcome back to the program. You're watching Sunday Politics on Trust TV. A quick reminder, you can watch the show on the go by joining our YouTube live stream, and also by following us across our social media platforms to catch up with more of our content. You can also check out our website, trusttv.com. Our phone lines are now open. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to do so. Give us your take on the state of affairs right now, especially looking at all of the developments, the protests that have continued to signpost the discontent, the nationwide discontent with regards to the economic climate right now. Lootings are also back. Public lootings in Kaduna, in Katsina, in Abuja. Earlier in the day, one of the NEMA warehouses in Gwagwa was actually looted by residents and some hoodlums, according to the police, in an effort to cart away food items, and they've done so rather successfully. And this is quite reminiscent of what happened a couple of years ago where Nigerians can truly relate with this particular development. Already we do have someone on the line, so let's get to the phone lines. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yeah, good evening, Abdullahi Ahmad and the guest in the studio.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, Shamaki is calling for
as always, it's good to hear from you. Go ahead, Shamaki.
Yeah, you see, what happened today in Abuja at the White House, I am telling you, is a signal to the federal government. I think yesterday, or day before today, Bua truck was parked and people went there and cut away all the spaghetti that was inside and ran away, which I saw on the television.
Right.
So an angry man, a hungry man is an angry man. The federal government have pushed people to the wall already. So people are starting to act now. This thing started today, they will bring it tomorrow. So this thing increase banditry, will increase kidnapping, will increase so many criminalities in this country. Because people are facing serious hardship. People can no longer eat food. That was this is so the federal government should do the right thing before this thing will get out of hand. This is my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shamaki, for joining the conversation. Appreciate your thoughts on this one. And as he was, saying, it was something that has happened over the past few days in Kaduna also, where that Bua truck was parked on the highway and was looted by individuals on that highway. And of course, it is also something that is rather very familiar for the most part with times like this. Feel free to join the conversation. We'd love to get more public views on this one. Here with us in the studio is a public affairs commentator. Gadu is helping us analyze some of these issues. But before I get to him, let's go back to the phone line one more time. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from. Hello, good evening. It appears we've lost our connection. Feel free to call back. The number is showing on your TV screen. A quick reminder, rules of engagement: turn down the volume of your TV set while calling in on the program, and make your points as quick and as articulate as you can. Okay, just to piggyback off of what Shamaki says, do you think the government should take these, pockets of events as a sign that, things could, take the turn for the worst?
Yeah, they should, and very seriously too, because we're getting to, if these things are not addressed concretely, not by tokenism, if it's not addressed concretely with policies, with determination, in a concerted manner, then we're going to have more of these things. I'm not praying for them, honestly speaking. But then, if you don't plan for something, that's what happens. 2 or 3 months ago, we wouldn't have had this kind of thing. Nobody would even want to go and do that. It's dangerous, it's risky. But now people are getting desperate, and the government ought to realize this. You are not. We should realize that we are not ruling over a bunch of people, whom we regard with contempt. These are human beings. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't even do this. But right now, as the caller has said, people are getting desperate, and more desperate. Hunger respects no rationality. And if it gets more and more into this way, then we are going to have to cope. The government itself will have to go to cope with far bigger issues than what's currently happening. So the sooner we sit down and face up to it, the better. It's no time now talking about excuses, talking about, oh, please, give us time. Nobody has that time. And
I think Nigerians have run out of patience?
Of course, yes. Look.
Completely?
They are running out of patience. And if this is not addressed right now, and with urgency and with sincerity, I bet you, and I'm willing to bet my cap on it, that this will get worse. And when it gets to the point where the government would not be able to solve it, I can tell you it has happened. It has happened in other countries. That it will not. If it goes on like this, it's not going to escape Nigeria. I'm not praying for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a very good point to make. He's not praying for it. But let's get back to the phone lines. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
I'm Fidelis Odun. I'm calling from Asaba, Delta State.
Did you say Fidelis?
Fidelis Asaba, from...
Right. Fidelis from Asaba. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yes.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Fidelis.
Yeah, I want to make my contribution.
Go ahead.
We must tell ourselves the truth. Hunger does not know political party. Hunger does not know religion. Hunger does not know whether you're Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, or what. These are what our leaders should think of. What we have in Nigeria is people who throw away efficiency, they throw away character, they throw away efficiency in the name of religion and the name of tribe, and promote sectionalism. And now we are here because we have got it all wrong. And we sit down and tell ourselves it's time to go back to the basics. Over the time, the politicians have promoted a terrible economic system. People are destroyed, investments are destroyed, companies are closing up because of one political interest or because of the financial and political organization. Today, we have more or less a monopoly in market. Cement is monopolized, rice is monopolized, the economy is monopolized. And you know the principle of monopoly. Government can no longer control the price. You are not begging them because you want to force down the price. The economic fundamentals, if they are not taken seriously, we will continue to suffer. And now, population are expanding. Institutions of government are expanding with not on economic ground, but on political ground and selfish interests. Now, if government will sit down and bring well-thinking Nigerians from all tribes, and they fashion out the way this country can be restored to its old glory, and remove sectionality, remove religion, and remove ethnicity in it. Bring all Nigerians, and let's think and see how to bring this country back.
Right.
So what we are doing is a tip on the iceberg.
Right.
Because Nigeria is a gunpowder in every element and not fast enough. Even the fact is Assad is biting.
Right.
And people are playing politics with it.
Okay.
Listen, you are in Abuja, you are with police and army, you feel you are safe. You are only safe for a moment. The time will come when it cannot no longer take care of that again. So we need to go back to the drawing table and tell ourselves the truth. It's not politics.
Okay.
It's not time to take religion. It's time to act.
Okay.
And see how we can help this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fidelis. I mean, I can understand your frustration and disenchantment with the whole particular situation that we're discussing tonight, and many Nigerians can only, just nod in agreement to some of those points. But, to just re-echo what, you've been saying for the most part is that, time is ticking, and this particular situation is a perfect storm for a disaster waiting to happen, or that is already unfolding. Do you get a sense that with what the government has done over the past few months? I mean, we saw the president now announce the cutting of his entourage, the vice president's entourage, his wife's entourage, and things like that. We now also heard of the streamlining of government through the implementation of the Oronsai report and so on and so forth. Do you think that the government is positioning itself to work with the current realities that we don't have all the resources to continue with things as they were?
No, I don't think the government is serious about that. And I'm going to give you examples. The government said it was going to implement the Oronsai report, okay? But has it done a thorough job, a due diligence on it? This is a report that was brought out 12 years ago. A lot of realities have come up within the time span, and new changes have happened. New things have happened.
You're saying the report is outdated?
No, yes, to a very large extent it's outdated. Then secondly, the modalities for its implementation. The government says we are going to do the changes, but nobody's going to lose their jobs. So what's the essence of it? And then again, the government says there should be sacrifice. We're going to cut out on entourage. The last time the government went to Dubai, it had 1,141.
I think the whole entourage thing happened, after the Dubai COP.
But this one going to Qatar, he had 38 people along with him.
Okay, let's get back to the phone line one more time. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from. It appears we've lost the connection. Try again. Give it another try, and then hopefully we'll be able to patch you through so you can have your say on the program. The number is shown on your TV screen. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program.
Hello, my name is Haruna Nagugu. I'm calling from Zamfara State.
Haruna from Zamfara. How are you this evening? Thank you so much for calling in. Go ahead with your take.
Yeah, I would like to welcome the contributor. He has said it all. The government needs to go to the drawing board.
And what would you like to see, Haruna? Yeah, what would you like to see the government do to address, especially, coming from Zamfara, where insecurity... Yeah. Go ahead.
They should revert back to the subsidy.
Revert back to subsidy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Revert back to subsidy. It has happened in Kenya.
Right, okay. Thank you so much for that, contribution, Haruna. Revert back to subsidy. A lot of people have been saying that over and over again. But, we have the Petroleum Industry Act right now. It's in effect. And what that means, essentially, is government is taking its hands off, not 100%, but it's liberalizing the market itself. And it doesn't make sense to go ahead and keep subsidy in place when you have, liberalized the market. Give me your take on, this position. Do you think, because it doesn't look like from the government's body language that it's going to revert back to, the old status quo, but should we even consider going back to the subsidy regime?
But why not? Government is made for the people. These are not things abstract. These are not things cast in stone. These are things when you are faced with situations that really task your existence. You just have to go back to the drawing board. As the contributors, the caller said, it happened in Kenya, it happened in Kazakhstan. It even happened here in Nigeria. When President Goodluck increased the price of petrol, he had to be reversed. So at the end of the day, you are not talking about an abstract economic something. You are talking about something for people. And that is what happens even in countries where you have, where who are diehard capitalists. You have governments come and review some of the issues that, the previous government has done.
But as things are, as we stated earlier, subsidy is still around. It's not 100% gone.
Yeah, but we're told it has gone. The same government that told us.
We know better. We know better that
but
it's
has
not
the government
gone.
even accepted it?
Right.
That's the question. Has the government has to accept, yes, that there's subsidy.
Why does that matter?
It matters because then we know who is getting the subsidy. Then we now begin to ask, why are they getting the subsidy when you told us that, you have already removed subsidy? So why is the subsidy? And it's running to trillions, by the way. So who is that person that is getting that subsidy? When you told us that the subsidy has been removed, who is that? So, which means one step forward, 10 steps backwards. And then that is the issue people are talking about. It's not that the subsidy itself, people are condemning the subsidy. It's who are the subsidy abusers? These are the people who make trillions of naira without actually contributing anything towards helping the subsidy reasons.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's one of those conversations where you just have to end it abruptly because there are so many issues to digest, and we're going to have to anchor the conversation here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us in the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And for joining the conversation.
Yeah, I'm always available whenever you want to talk about these things.
Thank you so much for joining us. All right. That's our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Appreciate the calls, and for all those who attempted to call in without success, we appreciate you either way. We'll be back next weekend live on Sunday at 8 p.m. Until then, my name is Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for watching Sunday Politics. We'll see you next week.